There we go.
So good day, everyone. Today I've got a very special guest. She's an up and coming astrologer, Camilla, and she runs her own business. And for today, we would like to talk about perhaps the top 5 things we wish we knew coming into professional astrology, because we're both, as you know, earning our coins using astrology, and we're just kind of reflecting on our journey, individual journey that is, and we want to share with you what we hoped we would have more knowledge of or information on. So hi, Camilla.
How are you?
Not bad, actually. It's a very warm day over here. I'm like sweaty and stuff.
I'm freezing.
What is it, winter? Officially winter?
Yeah, winter. I'm in Australia.
Where you are? Okay.
Yeah, so it's winter. Of course, it's not cold, for a lot of people, but to me, it's cold.
It's never really that cold, in Australia. Yeah. So tell the audience more about your journey, like learning astrology, and how do you get to this point where you are, as a practicing astrologer. Yeah.
So, okay, so I started in late 2014. That was kind of my first introduction to astrology. It was around my Saturn return. That's when, of course, it all happened. And yeah, it was just, I'm self-taught. So I started on my own for a few years, had some existential crisis in between. And yeah, here I am, and I love it. And it's my profession now. It's what I do.
So do you actually combine like traditional with the modern contemporary psychological?
Yes. So in that self-taught journey, of course, I didn't have a structure and I didn't have guidance, right? And so I had no idea what I was doing, no idea where to look. And of course, if you can remember back in late 2014, the boom wasn't as it is now, right? So it wasn't everywhere. And anyway, so I ended up landing with Vedic astrology. And me thinking that was it, right? Okay, this is astrology.
Yeah.
Of course, down the track, I found Western astrology, and it threw me off completely. And I'm just like, I don't understand. So then the whole sidereal, tropical, in one I'm one ascendant, in the other another. So that was the first existential crisis right there, very early on.
And I suppose now that you have clients coming to you every day, how are you like? Is there a difference in terms of like you learning astrology, the kinds of avenues, or do you just kind of still learn from all over the internet? I'm asking this because, like when people start off learning astrology with the intention, of course, later on, or without the intention, depending what you want eventually, to go into professional astrology, that it almost becomes like a fruit salad kind of astrological understanding, and everything is in isolation.
100%. That's when you start on your own and you have no idea where to look, which is what happened to me. So, and you don't, when you're starting, you don't have that knowledge or the understanding that astrology, it comes, you have to read the whole thing together. You can't isolate little positions or aspects. And so, that's where I had a hard time because I didn't have the structure. I'm guessing kind of like you went to school, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute.
From the get-go kind of thing. And so it took me a while. I didn't actually get a teacher until 2019. So those were, a good few years of me just really battling through and learning as much as I could, until it got to a point where I had questions that the internet couldn't answer anymore or books couldn't answer. And I just needed someone, a mentor, a teacher that could give me, the answers from experience, really. So, yeah. But in answering, I'm so sorry, in answering your question, your original question, I practice, in my practice, I use both traditional and modern astrology. So it all depends on the client and what they are seeking. If they want me to analyze more the character and psyche, I will perhaps focus more on Placidus. modern astrology using Chiron, for example. If they want more circumstantial situations in life, etc., more cold and dry,
Right.
then I will, go towards the traditional approach. But normally it's just a nice blend of both. Yeah.
Okay, I'm actually like for the audience who likes like cookbook, astrological publications and all those websites, etc. I'm not trashing those. It's actually a very good avenue to kind of segue your way into more advanced understanding down the road. But I do find that for those cookbook astrology stuff, right, it's good when you're just starting out, I would say. Those can be a very good guide to kind of marinate yourself, as you start just kind of preliminarily synthesize just the superficial layers together. But as you go more and more, I'm sure we both have learned like a lot of astrology is like a lifelong thing, right?
That's
Synthesizing more layers and nuances. Those cookbooks will be like fading more into the background as we go along because it can get quite reductive and simplistic. Yeah.
Yes, I agree
So,
with that 100%.
so now are you just kind of like learning from all over the place and sitting down with your own little notebook and just jotting down like like the deeper meanings of like the
Look,
planets?
it gets to a point where once you start doing readings, right? Once you start
Yes.
looking at people's charts, and once you've attained that knowledge, then you like you said before, you're always going to be studying for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong
Yeah.
journey, which is amazing. I love that. But then you start learning from experience as well.
Yeah.
Each chart talks to you, and each chart tells a story. And then you'll start finding similarities, and you can be like, oh, okay, I remember this aspect or this planetary position. All right, let's see how it plays out in this one. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you're still learning, but now instead of doing it through books or classes, you're doing it through actual charts. And
Yeah.
I think that's amazing.
Particularly when a client asks you a specific question, and then when
Yes.
your eyes start shifting around in the chart, it's like, oh, okay, so this can mean this as well.
Yes,
And this is in
exactly.
combination with this. I was like, okay, no wonder it manifested as this kind of
And I
tendencies.
love that, I love seeing those things because it's like, in a way, it's very humbling. You know what I mean? Because it gets to a point like astrologers can have big egos. Let's be honest about that. And not all of them, but a lot of, it's a thing. And when you come across those types of situations, you realize, hey, it's like, okay, I didn't know that, and if I didn't know that, I wonder what else I don't know. So you're
Right.
always learning, you're always seeking, you're always, educating yourself and others at the same time.
Yeah, for people who don't know, I think Camilla has basically told you about me going to astrological schools to start off with. Mine actually started in a very weird way, actually. It was during a very particular eclipse cycle that I was talking with a good friend of mine for many years who went to this astrology school. And I was just like wondering for the longest moment. And then I just finally just bit the bullet and just like dived in. And then I completed like, I think a total of like 10 and a half, 11 modules with the school. And it is very highly structured and it's been around for quite a long time. And this astrology school is based in London in the UK.
Right.
And everything is via email. So there's no like live Zoom sessions like this to ask questions. Everything you gotta type it and you gotta ask it in a very like specific way. And sometimes I just spend the whole week collecting questions to make sure I get them everything like arranged properly so that my tutor that's assigned to me can answer them adequately. So in that sense, I would say that because of my layers of education that is becoming very, how do I put this, very logical and also very, it also affects the way that I conduct my readings and the way I think about stuff. Because for the fundamental level, I basically deal with planet signs, houses, that leads to just a very simple natal chart report reading. And then I moved on onto the intermediate modules, which deals with the predictive aspects like transits, progressions, solar arcs, declinations,
Right.
all part and parcel
So
of the
this
predictive.
was like a long course, I'm guessing. It wasn't just like a 3 or 6 months kind of.
Each module, actually, you have a maximum time of 6 months, I think, 6 months to
Right.
complete it. And then if you need extra tuition time, because it's via distance learning, that you can buy extra time for yourself. That's so-called like extra tuition money.
Of course.
But then for me, I'm at a point in my life where I'm actually pivoting my direction away from corporate. So I decided to quit corporate, take up a part-time job that left me with more time to accelerate the course. And so if you think about 10, 11 modules with each module having 6 months, this can be a good 5 to 5.5 years if you do it as per normal, but I accelerated it. Yeah, I finished it, I think slightly below 3.5 years. For
nice.
Good yeah, but then it's like every day in and out, you eat, breathe, everything astrology, really.
It takes a lot of discipline, and you really have to love it. And like anything, I guess, you can't be a lawyer if you don't, because that's 7 years of your life. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you have to be passionate about it.
So when I hit the end of the intermediate modules, that's when you start with you end with the assignment of having a natal report, followed by a forecasting or predictive report on top of that.
Right.
And then when I move on to the advanced stuff, the last few modules, last 3 or 4 modules, that is, then you talk about extra stuff like midpoints, harmonics, synastry, electional astrology, and also mundane astrology as well. So you can see how all these building blocks is
very
you start complete. With the core. You start off like that. So I'm glad that I have, in that order, those understanding. So it gives me a more well-rounded, at least knowledge.
Yes.
Of what to expect. And as I go through the modules, I basically know what I'm good at as well in the broader scheme of things.
And what you like more, do you know what I mean? Do you like mundane astrology more, or am I a natal astrologer, or do I like electional? You know what I mean? You can branch out.
Yes. I mean, nowadays my monthly forecast is mostly mundane stuff.
Yes.
In which I use a lot of astrocartography or relocation astrology. That's more of the advanced modules as well. I forgot to mention. And then I combine that with the more personal natal approach to things, the more psychological ones. Yes. And then, all of us are just more than one thing, really. But at least I'm glad that I'm being exposed very early on in my education that, all these are there.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think there's a book by John Frawley talking about the different branches of astrology that the audience can have a look.
Do you have the name of it?
Let me just type it in and see if that's really the title. I think it's the book The Real Astrology by John Frawley that the audience can probably get their hands on. And it basically just talks in brief the different branches, including medical astrology and even weather astrology. I've never heard of. That's if the audience is wanting to predict the weather, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah. And all those stuff.
Something for everyone.
Yeah, and there's also the financial aspect for people who want to time the markets more, what to buy, what options or stocks or crypto they want to buy, and all those stuff.
More of an investment kind of.
Yeah. So astrology applications can be so wide that the world can be your oyster. Yeah.
People need to understand that as well, and to know that you don't have to read natal charts for the rest of your life. That is not what You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
'cause
it can be your bread and butter as a
yeah,
main staple.
but many
Yeah.
people think that that's it. Oh, okay, astrology is just about your natal
Right.
chart and that's it. You know, they don't have the concept of, hey, there's horary astrology, which is completely different.
Yeah.
Do you know
Yeah,
what
as
I mean?
well.
So it's
Yeah.
like people don't have that. Not everyone, of course, but yeah, it's important to educate, I think. I'm big
Yeah.
on that. I'm big on that.
Yeah. But I would say that the fundamental level stuff like planet signs, houses, um, aspects from planet to planet or planet to angles, and transits, progression, solar arcs, declinations, those are the basis to actually branch out to learn more of other branches of astrology.
Yes,
Those are
exactly.
the really like the core of things.
Yes.
So
One
you
of
need to,
the tips that I always give people when they want to start learning astrology, right? So from zero,
right.
is to, you know, just focus on natal at first and then
Okay.
you can branch out. Then you can
Yeah.
choose whatever you want, but start with the basics first. Um,
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just very overwhelming. Very.
It does, especially when you want to bring two charts together like synastry.
And
And
that's
then
where
like,
people get very confused. And I made that mistake as well. You know, we all do, where, you know, you've been learning for 3 months on your own, reading things on the internet or whatever. You haven't
yeah,
taken this as serious as it is. And all of a sudden, oh my God, I've got the chart of my crush. I want to see our synastry. And then you put them together and you have no idea what you're looking at. All you know is that they're
a
together.
bunch of lines, a bunch of like
I
symbols.
know,
Yeah.
and you just like, oh my God, my Venus is in square to his Mars, and that's it. But what does that mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, so, and we've all been there. We've all done that. Maybe not you, Donny, but I have.
Well, I mean, like, I think I've just been lucky to talk to this certain friend, and he basically sent me like the overview of the course, and everything is like, module one,
Yeah.
know this, module two, know this, module three, you gotta like
It's
learn,
so much more structured.
learn this, and then as to pass this module, you have to like, perform like a natal chart report
Yeah.
kind of thing, like at least try to synthesize it. And I think there's a word count, and like everything is so structured, and like they even give you like the way your report should look.
Yeah.
I mean, it's down to that level. So
And
it's like,
that's
okay,
amazing, you know, that is amazing.
yeah. So
But
if
for
people,
people that
yeah,
can't either afford something like that or don't have
yeah.
the time because they have families or careers or, you know, life,
Mm.
then don't get discouraged. You can still learn on your own at your own pace. It will take you a lot longer,
Yeah.
and you will look back thinking, "Oh my God, I wasted so much time."
Well, I mean,
But
if people want
it's
to
not.
know,
Yes.
if people want to know where I actually learned astrology, you can probably drop it in the comments below, and I'll probably give you the link, and you can look at, the course itself, and
Yeah.
see for yourself if you want to take that on. And if you can't finish within the time limit of like 6 months per module, you can actually buy extra tuition time
Yeah.
for
That's
that,
also
and
an
you still get
option.
that credit,
Yeah.
in the end. Yeah. It's not as Hogwarts as it looks.
But it's still a commitment, you see, it's still a
It is.
commitment
It is.
that perhaps
Yeah.
not everyone is able or willing
Yeah.
to do, you know. We all have
Yeah.
lives,
And to be
different lives.
honest, I actually don't like all my tutors, but you just gotta live with it.
That's
I've got my
normal.
favorites, but
We all
hey,
went to school.
yeah. I went through the structured
Yeah.
classes, and but there's no like online classes. It's all like your printed notes or your PDF notes, and everything is done via online. There's no like communication. So if you're, I would say, better at typing your questions or like putting your all your stuff into words, you're better in that aspect, so go for it. But if you like person to person, as in like, in the settings of an online class, then that may not be for you. But
Yeah.
then I know they actually have classes and also summer school, but that's, back in the UK, for those people who are nearby who wants to attend them in person, go for it.
Pretty cool. That's actually
Yeah.
quite amazing.
Yeah. So that leads me to the second point, actually. So after you've gained all those knowledge,
Mhm.
that you feel that you are somewhat confident in your own capabilities
Uh-huh.
in synthesizing the chart, you may want to start doing like practice chart readings. And
Yes.
that is to really build your confidence in terms of creatively combining different parts of the chart into emerging themes together. But at first, you may want to provide that free of charge as more of like a practice for people, and then have
Yeah.
honest feedback from people as well. Have you done that?
Exactly. Yes, 100%. I
Yeah.
think it's necessary in every astrologer's journey to start off that way.
Yeah.
You can't start charging $400 off the bat. You know what I mean? Like it has to slowly, because it's about confidence. You're working with people, and that is a big responsibility. And you have to know how to talk to them, know how to approach them, how to guard yourself and your own energy as well. And so you do that while practicing with close friends, family members that are willing to give you informed consent when it comes to giving you their details, and then you can research and do their charts and then get that honest feedback that at least if they're your close friends or family, they will give you.
And also, like, just make sure that you have a relatively reliable birth time to start off with.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you can actually push them for this process called rectification.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you get the birth data, at least you know that you have a certain level of confidence that the interpretations that follow after that at least have a reasonable percentage of accuracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all those things.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to shade the Starbucks astrologer. Like I call them the Starbucks astrologer, like, oh, come treat me like a frappuccino, I'll tell you your fortune. Like a coffee shop astrologer. I mean, if you're game for that, no judgment here, but if you really want to think about later on setting up your own practice, like as in charging like a fee for your time to dissect other people's chart and delineate those charts with a certain level of technical proficiency and all those stuff.
Yes.
Basically, it's earning a living, right? We are all like self-employed in our own ways.
100%.
And if you are trying to hit that route, then you got to have, or at least build up that sense of confidence. Like when you look at a chart, at least you can like say a few things off the bat. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like certain things that really jumps out at you.
There's always something.
There's always something. Yes. And that confidence is really like priceless when you look back at your journey. Because for me, when I finished off my education, like those 10 and a half, 11 modules in total, I started to just kind of like read for people for free first, and I slowly have to like, okay, like charge a small fee for my time, like at least cover the electricity, and all those stuff. And from there, I just like progressively gained that self-assurance, I would say, in order to move forward. Like, okay, like this is what I'm good at.
Mm-hmm.
And I can take this even further.
Yes. And with time, the more you practice, the more you start reading different charts of as I said, friends or family, right? The better you will get. 100% your skills, you will see a difference, in a matter of months. You will start seeing differences, and the feedback will change as well. It'll go from, that was a really good reading, to, oh my God, so those things really, really, it can help, especially if the person doesn't have,
anything to begin with,
or anything. We're all different, and so to be reassured that all the time that we spend studying, all the money that we've invested, all the energy, is actually paying off, that there's no price you can put on that.
Yeah, people just don't know how much investments of like time, resources, efforts, like blood and sweat, really, we put into like
isolation.
Learning.
Can we say that as well?
I think later on in the conversation, we talk about that potential mental health aspect, because it can get pretty lonely actually at times. like I can say, at least for me, like when I decided to leave corporate and on my last day of my corporate job, transiting into a part-time job lifestyle whilst learning all these modules, people have their skepticism. People are like, are you sure? I'm coming from a place whereby Singapore, whereby everyone is just super judgy, and it's almost like this like very set way of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That they don't know, like otherwise there's something out there that is still possible as well.
No,
And
but what I've found is that a lot of that as well, all the judgment, because we've all suffered judgment, from families, from co-workers, whoever. It does come from ignorance, and that's okay. They think, when they think astrology is this fortune telling zodiac sign thing, and that's where it starts and ends. They don't know that there is so much more underneath, and so you can't really blame them. So it's one of the best advice.
They're just uninformed, actually. That's what ignorance is about.
Don't take it personal, because they're talking out of ignorance, and it's not their fault. But it's not your job either to contradict them or get into arguments or anything like that. Just let it go. Let it go. Don't take it personal.
I mean, like, I remember those 3 years plus whereby I'm just eating, living, and breathing astrology, like going through the modules like hot tamales, one by one, just throwing stuff out. Yeah, delicious. And everyone's just kind of like, I almost have to like be aware of hiding myself in that sense, because you can't get hurt if you don't reveal yourself, right, in that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it can get quite lonely in the journey, but I just know that, like finally I'm doing something that I'm passionate about, and I think I'm pretty good at it. Mm-hmm. And so why not just go with it? And probably the realization came when I'm probably in the middle of my intermediate level. Mm-hmm. So like halfway through the modules, like module 5 out of 10-ish. And that's when it's like, I've gotten more comfortable to kind of talking to people about it. Yeah. And there's no kind of like, I think the shame left me.
Good.
That's the shame left me in a lot of ways. And there's more like, like this, and the eclipses are here, and like certain placements are here, and blah 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 blah, and this is what this is what you can anticipate. Mm-hmm. So I've started throwing like nuggets of stuff to people around me, and they literally just kind of like, oh, okay, just have that at the back of their mind, and later on tell me like, oh, I think you're right. You know what I mean? Yeah, this and that. So it's that progressive kind of, how do I put this? By small instances of proving yourself, which I'm not aware of, that's what I was doing, that more people are rallying behind me as well. More and more because of that. And this actually segues into the next point I want to make, because after you've gotten all the knowledge and information that you've learned, and you've done enough practice reading, hopefully, not just jump
please do it
and not just jump straight into doing this and having a potential blowback because you're just green, like inexperienced. The next thing to research on perhaps is to do your little research pertaining to how to set up your own practice, and more importantly, to dig more information regarding the topic of astro consultancy. This is a very important point, because astro consultancy is really like building that astrologer and client relationship. And most astrologers, I would say, who just kind of like dive into this blindly, they have really a hard time really like earning much money. And really, when I think about it, the success of an astrologer really depends on the health of the astrologer-client relationship.
100%. Yeah. You have to build a very solid foundation with your clients. In my case, my work I'm not big on, as you know, social
Right.
media, YouTube
Yeah.
videos and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't quite like the camera. So it's an exception. But my work has been purely from word of mouth. So all of my clients is just recommendation, it's you start a chain, right? And then it's the friend of the friend and the mother of the friend of the friend of the it's yes. So that's how I've built my clientele that now I've had, they keep coming back, and it's almost like you're forming a friendship, and they keep you updated, which is amazing. I love that. Oh my God, this happened, blah, blah. And then I just give them little tips because it doesn't cost me anything to say, hey, during this month, just be aware, I know your chart. So yeah. So it's awesome to have the ability to form those connections that are so important, because that's how the clientele that you'll have will be the loyal one, will be the ones that will show up. They won't leave you hanging, as in like they won't be rescheduling or just not show up for the appointment or not wanting to pay you, or that's the goal, really. And that's what I have at the moment, and I'm so thankful for that, because I love every one of my clients. They've been such a big part of my journey. And like I said, it's just they keep coming back. So it's just obviously self-assurance to me as an astrologer, but also just so thankful to them.
Yeah. I mean, in the recent few years after I started doing like this professionally, for me it's also via like word of mouth, like this person who basically gotten like a reading with me, and then like told her sister-in-law, you know what I mean? And then the sister-in-law told also another family member, and then I started reading for like different family members within that
Yeah.
unit. It just kind of reverberates out there, and then like a certain sister-in-law's daughter's friend came and looked for me, and I like all this stuff. So I found it amazing,
And yes, that's what
because
you
that
want.
that really kind of protects your longevity in this business as well.
Yeah.
And I think
Because
for this point,
I'm so
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, but I do see my clients as they're not just clients. You know what?
Are they
It's not,
relatives? Like what
hey,
Johnny Depp says, all Johnny Depp's fans are known as relatives.
relatives. You feel the connection, and you can't help that. It's important to not see them as a number. This is not client number 3 for today. It's not, it can't be like that. You can't do that. Oh, this is, I don't know, this is Christina. She's 35. This is her life. And you've got someone's hopes in your hands. You've got someone's dreams, frustrations, loss, grief, whatever they come with for a reading, you have that. And so that is such a delicate thing to deal with. So you have to be very grateful that you get to help someone in that way, but also be so careful in how you approach them and how you deliver the message and how you talk to them, because everyone receives messages in a different way. We all process information in a different
I
way.
think most people don't realize that we are juggling a whole lot of roles as astrologers to our clients.
Yeah.
We are that makeshift friend for them, for them to pour whatever that they don't feel comfortable sharing, whatever with other people too.
Mm-hmm.
And on a certain level, we are also juggling that role of being like a priest or sage. Some people know them, as one of the magis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we dissect the chart and actually like advise them according to what we see. So we're juggling like multiple hats at once to the client, and
Exactly.
and at the same time, we also have to conduct ourselves professionally. So there's some things I will never say to a client.
Yes. Yes.
There's certain stuff that I just won't, even if I feel it inside strongly, I won't say it.
Mm-hmm. And the judgment needs to get out, like
Yeah.
spit out. You
Well,
can't
having
judge.
said that, we're all humans, right? We all have
Of
our
course, but you
own
have
little
to check
biases.
yourself. Yes, of course, but you have to check yourself. If you find yourself doing
Yes.
that with a chart or with a client, check yourself straight away. Be aware of it. Awareness is key. As soon as you find yourself doing that, because like you said, we are humans,
Mm.
just, drive away from there. Because it's not, that's not what they're there for. People that get readings, most of the time you'll find that they are so in such a vulnerable stage because they have to open themselves up to this random stranger, you know, at first. And so, and they have to tell you about their pains and about their experiences, whether they're good or bad, but they're vulnerable. And so you can't judge someone when they're in that state. That is, please don't do that. Please don't do that.
Yeah, and pertaining to like the topic of astral consultancy, which, you know, what me and Camilla has, you know, have been talking about, I do have like, quite a number of books if you guys, the audience, want to have a read about it to kind of explore more
Yes.
Of professional astrology as a counseling arts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's also
because
an option.
astrology is an art form, and you combine that with, you know, like some basic counseling skills. Like for example, you have to learn about active listening if you're conducting a lot of live sessions with clients.
I do.
And then like, yeah, you do. I don't. And it's also about that reframing of questions to kind of like get access into valuable information from the client in order to make your session more fruitful altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just
I
go
wanted
through.
to just
Yes.
one more point very quickly is about
Yes.
the dialogue, right? So
Yes.
you, as the client, you have to be aware that the best way to get, you know, the best out of your reading, your money, the value for what you're paying, is to be open to dialogue with your astrologer. Be open to give them context so they can interpret what they're seeing in the best way possible, so they can tell you the astrology behind it in the best way possible, that you, the only one that's going to get from that is you as the client. So yeah, please keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, because I've seen that clients are so like uptight and their guard is all the way up.
And that's
And
understandable. That is
and
understandable.
it's only when you probably finish a whole reading, then you finally get the little bits and pieces here and there
Yeah,
to
that
kind of
happens.
like, oh, we could have like done this from right from the bat, you know what I
That
mean?
happens a lot, and that's why it's important for, as the astrologer, and this is where the astro
Right.
consultancy, you know, kind of like therapy thing comes in, where you have to build a safe space for that client, to so they can know that, hey, it's okay to open up, it's okay to talk about this, but if you don't want to talk about this, that's
Right.
okay as well. Let's touch on another thing.
I think right off the bat, it is also about establishing the point of client and astrologer confidentiality.
100%.
And so you, as part of our job, is to really not just kind of like put our judgments on a chart and share the chart without consent.
Never. Oh my
Yeah.
God. And I, you know, I am big on that.
Yeah.
If you don't have the consent of the person, please do not get that chart and start analyzing in that chart just for your own benefit or to use it against them. That is,
Or self-serving prophecy, you know,
yes,
whatever that
please
is.
don't do that. As I said to Donny the other day, you know, there's so many charts out there on the internet that you can use for research, for learning, for, you know, anything. They're there for that reason. But when it comes to close friends, when it comes to a potential partner, a mother, a father, family members, don't use that chart against them, because they don't know. Chances are that they don't know what they're giving you by them giving you their information. They're not aware of what astrology can do and what it means. So that's why we say informed consent, because normally they might consent, but they don't know what they're consenting to.
I think in my practice, I've also refused certain clients. I think one of the main cases that really jumped out at me was this parent who wanted me to do a vocational profiling for this child,
For a child.
not for a child, teenager perhaps, like probably around like 12, 13 years old. And I usually have like an age limit pertaining to people who want to sign up for a reading, because you just gotta let them live their lives.
Yes.
First, let them build their character, because in some ways that parent in particular will be using the information that I'll be giving as a motive of like using it against the child.
Yes.
And that's very unfair for that kid. And I explicitly replied to that parent saying that you need to have that kid in person and have he or she express himself or herself freely, and so that I can see how the person uses the chart, and not just you doing this behind his or her back.
Yes.
Without his or her consent, and using those information for your own self-glory and self-serving prophecy, whatever that like
or to benefit yourself, or sometimes people use it against
or
you,
use that to like manipulate,
yes, that
control.
happens as well.
So I basically rejected that parent. And on another case is of a lesser degree, this experience of a client who booked and actually paid already for a reading for his wife. And I basically emailed that person back and said that she needs to be aware that you're doing this.
Oh, she wasn't aware.
She wasn't. And basically she, in the end, was like CC'd into the email chain, and she's made aware of it. And we made certain adjustments because it all boils down to ethics, really.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's an unspoken thing. It's just something that you do out of respect and common sense. Yeah.
Because at that point, the person just didn't know about such things. And then, when we kind of delve deeper into the email chain, then he basically realized that, oh, okay, like, yeah. And it's always better if that person is an adult to have that person act according to his or her accord to engage your service, rather than being like pushed in some way, shape, or form to kind of be in this situation. Do you have any clients who actually bought readings for their loved ones or friends?
Yes, I have one client. She bought a reading for her husband.
Okay.
But the husband was fully aware of it. The husband was completely aware, and he was in it, and he, so it wasn't a thing of going behind the husband's back or doing it for her own benefit. It was just because the husband did not know much about it, and he just preferred for the wife to take care of business in that.
So is the husband like really present for the actual consultation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't a matter of just let's do my husband chart to see if he's cheating. No.
Let's see whether he's like snooping, you know what I mean? Like sneaking around, like those. Yeah.
And it happens so often. And that's the thing, like we laugh, but it happens so much.
Yeah. So let me just quickly go through the book list in which I've gotten, if you're interested in delving more into the astro consultancy part. So the first book is by Stephen Arroyo, and it's the book that's called Astrology, Psychology and the Four Elements, an energy approach to astrology and its use in the counseling arts. So you may want to look for this. And the next two books are by this astrologer called Donna Cunningham. And the first one is Healing Pluto Problems. And the next one is The Consulting Astrologer's Guidebook. And the next one is Windy Dryden. And the title of this book is called Brief Counseling. And the next one is by Piero Ferrucci. The book title is What We May Be, The Visions and Techniques of Psychosynthesis.
Nice.
Okay.
So I'm guessing you'll have that written on the YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, if people, depending on my pronunciation, I may just type it out later. And the next book is by Liz Green. The book is called Relating. And there's another book by Juliet Sharman Burke, co-written with Liz Green. And the book title is called The Astrologer, the Counselor, and the Priest. How fitting is that, the title? And the The next book is by Adolf von. I guess I've forgotten the
You're gonna have to
surname.
write that one down.
The title is Power in Helping Professions. And the next book is by Tracy Marks, The Astrology of Self-Discovery. And the next book in which I have is by Thomas More, The Planets Within, The Astrological Psychology of Marsilio Ficino. So in case the audience wants to look into that book.
Choices.
Yeah, and the next book is by Bob Mulligan, and the title is Between Astrologers and Clients. And the next book is by Maritha Pottinger, Healing with the Horoscope is the book title. Christina Rose, this is another book that I have. That book is called Astrological Counseling. But this book in particular is out of print, but some copies can be available like secondhand online. And last but not least, there's this book by Wanda Seller, and the title is called The Consultation Chart, and it's published by Wessex Astrologer. And so this, depending what you like, you can get a few books or a lot of books in this list and read through to kind of bridge you from a student of astrology to close that gap to being one who's practicing it professionally.
Yes.
I think this one is very important because it's almost like a jump.
It is because, just because we study astrology and we practice astrology, that doesn't give us the people skills straight away. Some people have that naturally, 100%, but others don't. So it is something that you really want to look into, because it's only going to benefit you and it's going to help your client so much.
And I think this segues into the next point that we're about to make. Point number 4 is to talk about the mental health aspect of being an astrologer. Yeah. I think we're both very, very aware of it, like working through like for the past 2 years plus in this weird little dystopian world that we live in right now, and working from home and doing a lot of stuff in a very like quasi surreal heightened environment.
100%. Yeah. It is definitely, again, it is something that you should inform yourself before you start practicing, professionally, about the mental health side of it, about the fact that, if you do, like myself, live readings, right, where you are one-on-one, just like me and Donny are right now, chances are, yes, of course you can do 5-6 readings a day, but you will be depleted of energy, especially if you're a sensitive person, if you're an empath. Again, not everyone is the same, but there are more sensitive astrologers out there that we can't handle that many readings a day. So for example, in my case, I do 2-3 max. After each one of them, I do feel like I need to recharge, like plug myself into the wall. That's how I feel. So it is, you have to be aware that you need to protect your energy field. You need to ask for protection depending on what it is that you believe. That's between you and that, but just ask for protection. Watch out for your energy field. Have boundaries. That doesn't mean that you can't be, that you have to be inaccessible or anything like that, but just have boundaries where people that come for readings, as I said before, can be sometimes so desperate for guidance. So, sad sometimes, angry, or happy, but it's a transfer of energy. We are exchanging, and even if it's through a screen, we're still exchanging energy. And so just be aware of that. Please be aware of that and protect yourself.
I think it also boils back to certain experiences which I had, in which clients came to me with a very strong sense of desperation.
Yes.
And that's when I would just politely decline the reading, because when they are in that state, you're always cornering yourself with a sense of like all the pins and needles are on you. and that may kind of affect the kind of interpretation that comes forth as well for clients. So when I actually pick up from the client that they are in a very desperate situation, I usually will politely decline, and I usually tell them, like, you do what you gotta do in this moment. And this is really not from astrology to client, it's just person to person.
Yes, human to human.
And it's not a great experience, even though I move forward with the consultation itself, because they are not in a state to kind of think about it logically. There's no breathing space for that. Everything is so heightened when you're desperate. So
They won't receive the message in
yeah, or
the
they
right
just
way.
like, there's this kind of shield that kind of blocks out whatever.
And normally they will want to
Yeah,
hear a particular answer. And if you don't give that to them,
yeah,
then, chances are they will be unhappy. They will lash out sometimes,
right,
so yeah,
yeah.
be careful with that.
Do you have like any experiences pertaining to like clients in which you've declined, who came to you in a very like desperate kind of mindset or situation?
No, no, I've
Not
never
yet.
had, no, don't say that. Good. No, not yet, not yet.
Okay.
But I've had clients with, extreme sadness, for example, because of a loss. And of course, I was not going to decline the consultation because, I mean, it's empathy. You know what I mean? Like, even if she wasn't paying me for it, hey, let's have a chat. I know what it feels like. But it is a huge, huge I don't want to say burden because that is not the word, but it is a huge load that you are putting on yourself as well, right? Because this person is looking for guidance. This person is looking for answers. They're looking to be listened to as well. And so you have to provide all of that. And sometimes, at the end of the consultation, sometimes I feel like, oh my God, I didn't deliver, or I didn't do as much as I could have, or there's so many feelings that I am left with after that. And it has nothing to do with the person anymore. It's me with those feelings, dealing with that. So that's again where you have to learn to separate yourself a little bit and put up some boundaries.
Yeah, and I think like regarding the mental health aspect from our perspective, is really like, as a professional astrologer, you need to really have your own network of friends and confidants.
Yeah.
Preferably knowing your art form as well, because no one knows the life of an astrologer unless you're in it, or be knowing someone who's actively in it.
Yes. Yes, 100%. As I said before, a while back, about isolation. You don't realize how many hours
Mm,
like astrologers spend on their own, by themselves, just in front of a computer. And
mm,
sometimes, and I am so thankful because I have beautiful, beautiful friends and a beautiful family that support me. And sometimes when I have gone overboard with either readings or the time that I'm spending working, then I get my friends going, hey, Cam, it's time to get some vitamin D. You need to go for a walk. You need to come out to the beach or go for a walk with us. Grab a coffee, socialize. Remember, we're living at the moment. I spend my time up there, looking at everything that's up there, and I forget sometimes that, hey, live the present as well. So you do need a support system, and as you said, colleagues or friends that are astrologers or are in this art that understand that side of it, that we can kind of like talk about things and decompress a little bit.
This kind of brings me to my next point, actually, which is about towards the final part of our conversation, which talks about the marketing
Yeah.
and the promotion of your services, and perhaps also knowing how much to charge
Yeah.
as well, because that actually comes up a lot. Like I'm kind of lost initially, and then somehow gotten like a picture of how much to adequately compensate yourself for your services. And perhaps you can start off first with this point. that we are about to
Yes.
talk about?
Okay, so in talking about marketing yourself or putting yourself out there, uh, again, and I will never get sick of saying this, we are not all the same. So we can't expect to do what the next person does, right? So I can't market myself the way Donny does because we are completely different people. So in my case, for example, only just started now because I'm such a private person. I was very against it, but I have now
Yeah.
started to do Instagram posts, for example.
Right.
And my style is very much about educating people. I love to teach. I love to share knowledge. I love it when the people interact and they add to whatever it is that I'm saying because then I'm learning something as well. So it's a really awesome exchange. And I think that everyone should have at least a basic knowledge of what astrology is and about their natal chart, in the ideal world. But yeah, so that's my way of marketing myself now. I've started to do that, and I've jumped on this video with Donny to talk about these important things. And Donny's been asking me for so long, and I have said no because I'm shy. I'm camera shy. That's the honest truth, and I get very nervous, and I do have ADHD. So a lot of the things that some people do are not going to work for me. Right. And so that's on the marketing side. And then on the charging for your services, as we said, are you going to say something? Sorry.
Actually, for me, pertaining to, I guess we're just living in this social media age,
Yes.
and it's very hard not to, have things put out on YouTube, on Instagram, like where Camilla does most of her marketing, and also on, for the late millennials and Gen Z will be TikTok.
Oh, yes.
It's a whole other
I
ball
haven't
game.
figured that one out.
And for some who's like one short and sweet stuff, there's always Twitter.
Mhm.
You know,
I don't even have
and yeah, and I guess I don't know if Tumblr is still an old school way to post stuff.
that.
Yeah, Tumblr, or just having your own little blog site. I mean, as you know, guys, yeah, like I do have my WordPress page, in which is my business page, and a huge area of my website is dedicated to like posts and articles which I write along the years. And like it just depends how you want to express yourself, really, and try experimenting.
Yes.
Give yourself some time and see what actually fits you. Some of you listening may be like, oh, I want to be a TikTok astrologer. So it'll be like driving content that's very like Vine based,
Yeah.
like less than a minute.
You'll be in front of the camera a lot. You'll have that interaction. Whereas, if you're more of a writer, if you're more introverted, like myself, then writing, kind of like writing articles, putting them on your website. That is a great way of doing it. I speak Spanish as well, so my content is both in Spanish and English. So it is towards both audiences, but it is very, on Instagram is quite limited as to how much you can upload. You don't want to overwhelm people with stories, and there's so many characters you can put on a post. So at the moment, I am looking to other ways of perhaps writing articles on my website, things like that. That will eventually be the next step.
So right now you're doing more text-based posts.
Yeah, so stories, entertaining stories, educational stories in both languages, and then your post as well about planetary ingresses or aspects and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. I think this kind of picks up on the point of perhaps it's a good thing if you can talk to practicing astrologers in your country or region to have a feel of the market and visit their websites pertaining to how much they are charging.
Yes, that is
on the backs of how much experience they have, to kind of give you like an idea of like, how much per hour am I looking at to be compensated for my work? Yeah. That can kind of like be your own little market research before you step into it. Like for me, I actually have a spreadsheet, very Virgo, right? And and simple calculation will be like, oh, this particular reading, for example, a Venus reading, and I take X number of hours to complete from start to finish.
Mhm.
And on average, I'm charging like X amount of dollars per hour. And I just do that multiplication. And then with the number of years of experience that I accumulate doing this kind of reading,
This is such a good
maybe,
thing to do.
you know what I mean? And
I
give
love
yourself
it.
a little increment, like plus like $2 or $3 more per hour, times that X amount of hours, still that kind of brings you to that price, the
Mhm.
end price for the client. Because I usually have clients that, how do you derive this price for the reading?
Mhm.
From the client perspective, they
Yeah.
ask me that question. So
Oh,
that's
good.
my answer for them. Yeah, because they don't see it as justified, but when I broke it down, they got it straight away.
Oh, right. Okay, I've never had that happen to me.
Yeah, I get all the all the weird
You
questions
get all
from
the weird
clients.
clients.
Yeah, because some clients are perhaps just kind of skeptical of how
Yeah.
much of why they are paying this price for this reading.
Mhm.
And it's like I base that off from this amount of hourly rate times this number of hours I spend on this reading, and this reading takes this many hours to complete from start to finish.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, it is just, or it's justified. And then they just kind of like, oh, okay, they got it. And they're more than willing after that, knowing that fact
Mhm.
of how I derived or that amount, to pay me willingly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair
because
enough.
once you hit a certain like number of years of experience, you need to also give yourself a pat on the back and give yourself like your own increment, put it that way, because we are all self-employed, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I've got another little point, and I know that you might not agree with this, but this is what I do, right? So I've got my prices set in my
Right.
website for my English speaking clients. They're mainly from, Australia, New Zealand, Europe. But then because I was born in Chile, right? So let's start from there. I was born in Chile, and that's why I speak Spanish. That's in South America. And so I am very aware that, for example, the wages in South America, particularly in Chile, are nothing like the wages here in Australia, maybe they're in Singapore, Europe, etc. So I cannot, bring myself to charge them the same amount that I charge people here, for example, that I know the average, wage. Over there, it's so much less, so much less, and so it would literally be impossible for them to afford one. And I think that everyone should have access to an astrology reading. That is not something, it shouldn't be looked at as a privilege. It's something that if we want astrology to really, do what it's capable of, I think everyone should have a basic knowledge and accessibility to it. So my prices for people in Chile, for example, are a lot lower, and
Right.
I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that.
I
And
guess you're just kind of adjusting for the market realistically,
yeah,
because the socio
be aware of that.
political and economic
Be 100%
environment
aware of
over
that.
there.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I'm just living in a country that's got a high cost of living, not
yeah,
necessarily standard of living, but cost of living. So I'm just, earning my coins for that.
yeah. And you
We all
do
have
what
to
you gotta
survive,
do.
right? At the end of the day,
That's right. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if you can do that, kudos to you, because you're
Yeah.
also kind of bridging and extending yourself further to
Mm,
different markets, because you are multilingual
yeah.
and you can service like different markets all at once,
Yeah.
you know.
Which is,
And
it's a privilege as well to be able to
yeah. I
do
mean,
that.
like it's just kind of unique what you do,
Mm, yeah.
because you can like service like one whole continent like South America by just speaking the language that's commonly spoken over there, and be servicing like another whole few continents, really, like Australasia and also Europe, with your English
Yes.
language. So it's commendable, really.
Yeah, yeah. I am privileged to be able to do that. I love it.
Yeah.
I do have some Asian clients as well that are beautiful because I grew up in Indonesia, as you know.
Right.
I
Yeah.
spent there so many years of my life.
So do you actually conduct like even readings in Bahasa?
No, I
Not
don't.
yet.
No. Bahasa. But it's funny, and this is a little bit out of topic, but I can speak Bahasa, but it's mainly, you know how Indonesia is such a big
Right. Yeah.
country, it's an island, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
13,000 islands. So I speak the slang of the island that I was brought up in. So I
Okay.
don't speak like proper, I guess, Bahasa Indonesia. I can
But it's
understand,
enough for the client to understand. Like
but I can
with a few English words
communicate.
thrown in.
But astrology, how do I say trine? How do I say, square or aspect? Or it's a bit more
Well,
technical. I
harmonious and
stick to
unharmonious, I suppose you can use that, you know.
yeah, as well. But I
Yeah, yeah,
normally
yeah,
just
yeah.
stick to English and what's it called? And Spanish. Yes.
Spanish. So
Yeah.
where can people find you predominantly, like as we wind down this conversation?
Yeah. So my Instagram is cam.fendley. So cam.fendley, Fendley. And my website, www.camillafendleyastrology.com. And as I said, those are my two. That's where I'm at the moment, and that's where I'm comfortable with at the
Right.
moment. So yeah, that's where
So
you.
I'll be putting her website and also her Instagram handle if you guys are interested in knowing what she's posting and follow her on her
If you guys
platforms.
want to
And
chat about
yeah,
astrology, I mean, I am more than happy to. I love it. So
yeah.
please.
So it's rare to have this opportunity to have you on camera chatting with me. I
Yeah.
hope this is like breaking you into that, being not as shy in front of
Yeah.
the camera.
Yeah. I'll get there, guys. I'll get there.
So these are the 5 things that in retrospect that we can provide to the audience to kind of show from at least our perspective and our journey how we actually ended where we are in this spot.
Yes.
As
And I hope you
as
guys,
yeah.
I hope it helped. I hope it helped. I know that we can talk, we can digress, but I hope that those 5 points, they're very important and take them seriously, please. And best of luck in your journey. We're all going at our own pace. Don't compare yourself to anyone. Please don't do that. Everyone's journey is different, so just keep that in mind as well.
In a very idealistic world, there's always room for everyone, I would say.
Yes.
But then, like I suppose
Should
for
be.
both of us, we have met people who are like not as nice in the industry, but
And
you just
that's
have to
okay.
just shrug it off and
And that's okay, that's their journey. What can you do? And that's life as well, right? Yeah, in general.
So I hope this video finds you well and you have
Yes.
a little behind the scenes peek, into our lives, both of our lives, and how we hopefully continue to enjoy this journey.
Yes, of course, 100%. We'll keep you guys updated for sure.
Yeah. So till then, I suppose it's a goodbye from me and Camilla.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Welcome. And if you guys would like Camilla to be back on the channel, drop it down in the comments below. Maybe we'll find another like nice topic to talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
I always welcome guests on my channel.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So bye from here.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
All right.